Thank you so much. And now for our message.
When I first read that passage that I just read to you, I couldn't get the idea out of my mind. Not just the fact that ordinary people can sometimes do wonderful things without realizing it, but that, as this woman puts it, it's as if they were angels who had forgotten. And I thought, what an interesting concept, that human beings are angels who don't realize it. It's similar to the Hindu teaching that we are all divine at heart. We are God unfolding itself into the world, the golden treasure beneath your feet that you don't see. Or the Buddhist concept that we are all bodhisattvas, Buddhas to be, beings on the road to enlightenment, only we're ignorant of it most of the time. And in case that sounds too mystical or esoteric, don't worry, I'm not planning on talking about theologies or creedal formulations. It's something a lot more ordinary than that. And at the same time, it might be a little more profound. It's the idea that there is something precious in us and in those around us that ordinary words don't seem able to express. So we search for words like magical or miraculous or beautiful or overwhelming. And what makes this experience especially fascinating to me is that it is often very ordinary. I mean, the people who visited this woman, who held her a hand, probably gave her a hug, talked to her, listened to her, they were doing what probably seemed like very minor things. They were just being nice, but it was very ordinary and of no particular significance. But to the person who needed what they had to give, needed it in a way beyond asking, it was nothing less than a miracle. Now, I have always believed in this theoretically. After all, it's what we say in our UU principles, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It's another way of saying everyone is precious or has a light inside. This is a light of mine, etc. But this woman who described her hospital encounters with angels actually experienced this thing that we talk about in theology and poetry and principles without always realizing at a gut level what it is. And before I get into some other examples, let me just say a few words about the word angel. We think of angel as a supernatural being. It actually comes from the Greek, angelos, and it means messenger. And it's the translation of the Hebrew word malach, which also means messenger. So in the Bible, it often refers to God's messengers, and sometimes the Bible will translate it as an angel, but actually the main meaning is messenger. And the messenger brings a message, and the Greek word for message is angelion. Angelion is the message. Now, if you put the word for good, the Greek word for good, as in utopia, euthanasia, euphemism, a lot of words that we have, it means good. So if you put that with it, you have euangelion, or as we pronounce it today, evangelical. And although it's come to mean people who believe in the Bible's literally true, that wasn't its original meaning. Its original meaning was good message. And we have one too, Evangelion. In fact, the word gospel, we say the Gospels, the Latin word is evangelium. They took the Greek and just made it into a Latin word. Evangelium from evangelion just means good message. And in English, it came out as good spiel or Godspell or gospel. We now pronounce it gospel, having no idea that it really meant good news. And an angel is just a person with good news. Here are a few examples. I went into this because I know Unitarian Universalists are heavy into theology and word origins. And I was going to say entomology, but it's actually etymology. That reminds me of, there was a Mad Magazine quote when I was a kid. It said, "No, I don't know what entomology is, so stop bugging me." But this is etymology. All right. Anyway, here are a few examples I've picked, somewhat at random, from the files that I keep of interesting but mundane experiences. And what they all have in common is that they're all about surprising messengers of the holy. And the first is from the Reverend Elizabeth Tarbox, a UU minister from Middleborough, Massachusetts. And she describes a very simple experience she had that put her in touch with something bigger than she expected. Here's what she writes. Out walking one morning, I saw a medium-sized turtle begin the dangerous journey across Route 58 from one side of Monposset Pond to the other. The traffic is pretty heavy, even at 6 a.m. As the turtle left the safety of the grasses at the roadside, I looked right and could see a line of cars coming, led by a Harley Davidson, ridden by a leather-clad figure in a Darth Vader helmet. The turtle was almost at the halfway point, destined for extinction beneath those burning wheels. I moved a few paces into the road and simply pointed to the turtle. The motorcyclist slowed. He brought his gleaming bike to a stop. He put out his arms to indicate to the cars behind him that they should not overtake. He allowed the turtle to cross in safety. Then he and I signaled a greeting to each other and we went on our ways. The turtle, the motorcyclist, and I were on different journeys that day, and mine was a journey of discovery. I discovered that compassion sometimes wears a motorcycle helmet. I went to a place inside me that fears bikers, and I made a few corrections. I don't know what kind of day the turtle had, or the person on the Harley, but my day was better for having encountered them. Now, I like this story because, well, the turtle probably didn't know anything special that happened, and the motorcyclist may not have thought anything special happened either. He may just have thought, oh, I'm glad that lady pointed out the turtle so I didn't run over it, and just went on. The drivers behind the motorcyclist may not have thought anything happened either. They may not have even seen the turtle and just thought, there's some problem overhead. We don't know what any of these other people thought. They may have felt awe at the saving of a turtle's life, or they may just have gone through with no particular feeling. All we know is that this minister felt something. She saw something she didn't expect. She came away a little changed. She learned that angels sometimes wear motorcycle helmets. Here's another incident I found, again from my file for interesting but mundane experiences. It was a letter to an advice columnist. It's from 1995. You can tell how old it is because it's Ann Landers. Any of you still remember Ann Landers? Okay, advice columnist, there's probably new ones now, but anyway, it was written by a young man to Ann Landers, and he says, Dear Ann Landers, I want to thank an anonymous couple that I met briefly at the Indianapolis airport during a trip to Kokomo last March. I had flown to Indiana for a job interview, and I was wearing very casual clothing. And when I arrived, my garment bag with my 2 best suits, dress shirts, shoes, and toiletries did not arrive. Lost luggage is stressful enough. Expensive clothing and a job interview early the next morning makes it terrifying. The airline personnel were quite indifferent. I was frantic. A well-dressed couple I had never met overheard the conversation, and the gentleman asked me what size suit I wore and offered to loan me his. His suit was one size larger than mine, but it was better than what I was wearing. I was speechless. And just as I was leaving the airport, a representative of the airline ran after me to announce that my luggage had been found after all. And this incredibly kind couple should know that their offer lifted my morale immeasurably. By the way, I got the job. What I like about this story is that, again, I'll bet the man who offered to loan his suit didn't think he was making a supreme sacrifice. He probably thought it was just a common decency. And the thing is, He didn't actually end up loaning his suit because the airline, found the bag in time. But that didn't matter. The fact that he was willing to loan it was what made the difference and made this guy right all these years later. Many of us have had experiences where someone did something dramatic, something extraordinary, like saving a life or making a great sacrifice or giving an extremely large donation to an important cause, or perhaps we've been the one doing the dramatic thing. And in cases like that, words like hero, savior, great humanitarian, courageous readily come to mind. But an angel who has forgotten is someone who has done something significant without knowing it, which means it must have seemed like a very ordinary thing, no big deal, except to the person who witnessed it. I suspect most of us have had experiences like this. I know I have. In the early days of my ministry in Racine, I believe it may have been in the fall of 1978, so God, how long ago? Almost 50 years. Our church board had a retreat, and a number of board members told me some things I wasn't ready for, things I found very painful to hear. And as they were speaking, someone behind me, another member of the board, gently put her hand on my shoulder. She didn't say anything. She didn't even squeeze my shoulder. She just laid her hand there as if to say, I know this is hard, but there's love here. You'll be okay. I don't think she knew what it meant to me at the time. I did tell her later. But she probably didn't even think about it beforehand. It just came out of her kind of like a light bird that comes and just rests on your shoulder. Another experience like this that I remember is a conversation I had with a group of UU ministers. It was UU ministers and their spouses. This is about 40 years ago, so the times were different somewhat. We were introducing ourselves, and one woman referred to what I thought was her husband as her partner. And I thought, oh, they probably aren't married. That's why she calls him a partner. But it turned out they were married. She referred to her husband as her partner because she was aware that gay people didn't get to refer to their partners as husbands or wives. No one did that in those days. At least legally, it was not said. And she wanted to even the playing field a little bit. So it was kind of as if she was saying, my relationship with my guy, though society may recognize it as legal and proper, is no more important than yours. So I will refer to my husband with the same language you use, my partner. Such a small thing, but so powerfully affirming. A little later that day, I said something to the effect that I was always so grateful to be at UU gatherings. I love General Assemblies for that reason. You can go there and it was okay that you had a partner of the same gender. So I was so grateful to be at UU gatherings where my relationship was considered as valid as anyone. And this same woman said another thing I'll never forget. She said, you shouldn't have to be grateful. It's what everyone deserves. And I thought, you're right. I shouldn't have to be grateful, but I am. And I'm even more grateful for the fact that you realize I shouldn't have to be. You sometimes have no idea what it means to have you think it's no big deal for some of us. That in itself is a big deal. You act as if it's not a great blessing you have given, but that's part of what makes it a great blessing. Now here's a story from 1949, given that we had Memorial Day recently. This is 1949. A lot of soldiers were coming back from World War II, and almost every highway had men in uniform hitchhiking home to their families, and many people picked them up in those days. Well, one of those soldiers came home to a family reunion only to find out that his mother had kidney problems and needed a blood transfusion or she wouldn't make it through the night. And her blood type was AB negative, which was very hard to get in those days because it's a rare one, and there weren't many blood banks or any air flights to ship it, and no one else in the family had that blood type. So her son left the hospital to gather up the family members to say goodbye to their mom. And as he was driving down the highway, he saw another soldier, just like him, hitching a ride, and he almost passed him up because he wasn't in the mood, you know. But then he stopped and he gave him a ride. And that soldier noticed that he, the driver, was crying. Now, for the rest of the story, I'll read you what his daughter wrote about it. My father left the hospital, this is his daughter. My father left the hospital in tears to gather up all the family members so that everyone would get a chance to tell grandmother goodbye. As my father was driving down the highway, he passed a soldier in uniform hitchhiking home to his family. Deep in grief, my father had no inclination at that moment to do a good deed. Yet, he himself found himself pulling to a stop, and he waited as the stranger climbed into the car. Now, my father was too upset to even ask the soldier his name, but the soldier noticed my father's tears right away, and he asked about them. And through his tears, my father told this total stranger that his mother was lying in a hospital dying because the doctors had been unable to locate her blood type, AB negative, and if they did not locate her blood type before nightfall, she would surely die. It got very quiet in the car. And then this unidentified soldier extended his hand out to my father, palm up, and resting in the palm of his hand were the dog tags from around his neck, and the blood type on the tags was AB negative. And the soldier told my father, turn the car around, and let's get to the hospital now. My father's mother, my grandmother, lived until 1996, 47 years later, and to this day, no one in our family knows the soldier's name. But my father has often wondered, was he a soldier or an angel in uniform? This last story I want to tell you is kind of a life and death story, but again, the angel here probably didn't know that he was one. In 1944, during World War II in France, there was a deportation train carrying members of the French resistance to a concentration camp. A few passengers were able to jump off the train as it was going and survive, even though it was moving very fast. And one of them was badly hurt, but a farmer found him and took him to his farm where he let him stay until the end of the war. Now, this was a very dangerous thing for the farmer to do, especially since this particular resistance fighter was Jewish. And the farmer and his family could be sent away and even killed themselves for harboring a refugee, especially a Jewish one. But he and his family did it anyway. And many years later, the man they had saved became a social worker in America. He did a lot of work with children. And since he remained a very religious Jew, some children once asked him about a religious question they had. They said, what is an angel? We don't know what an angel is because we've never seen one. And this man, thinking of the farmer who saved his life, said, an angel is someone who, just when you think all is lost, when you think no one will ever help you, that nothing is possible, all of a sudden, an angel is there to help. If we had time, I'd ask you to share some of your own experiences that where something may have seemed very ordinary, but it had an extraordinary effect on you. But actually, maybe you can do that during social hour or in your ride home if you came with someone. But for now, I just want to say something about why it might be important to see other people as angels who have forgotten and yourself as an angel who is finally remembered. It's not so much a literal truth as a spiritual one. You do not always realize that you sometimes have the most profound effect on people you'll never guess unless they tell you. You don't see how your ordinary actions, things you may do without even thinking about it, might manifest a vision of human goodness that gives hope to people you may never suspect, or for that matter, maybe never even knew. And remember, If it's true that the best angels often don't know they're angels, and what they do may seem quite ordinary to the casual observer, and it's only the person watching carefully who sees their true nature, if that's true, then there may be angels around you right now who appear to be doing some very ordinary things, but who, if you look carefully enough, may be hiding a halo. There's a passage in the New Testament, Paul's letter to the Hebrews, that says, "Do not forget to entertain strangers, for some have thereby entertained angels unaware." The author, Paul, or whoever wrote in his name, was probably referring to Abraham and Sarah, who had 3 strangers in ragged clothes come to their door asking for shelter from the cold. And Abraham invited them to sit near the fire, and Sarah took the food that she'd been preparing for herself and Abraham and divided it up into 5 portions so they all would be able to eat. And that's when the 3 strangers revealed themselves as angels, as God's messengers. And I think what scripture passages like this are trying to tell us is the divine is present in ordinary people, sometimes even in unpleasant seeming people. God or the holy or that which is most precious, whatever words work best for you, that thing is made manifest in places and people where we never expected to find it. Sometimes in strangers who we might meet only once and then they're gone, but who touch us somehow, who reveal something by their manner, by their actions, by their words, that hints of a more beautiful world than we are used to seeing. Would you join in singing, "Love Will Guide Us"? Please rise in body or spirit.